SMT Nation, we are back. Nation, I stumbled upon this article from Dano Light Reading. I'll provide a link to it in the description. It's dated from February of last year. So not last February, but the one before. And of course, this comes off the heels of this spectrum, the 3.45 gigahertz. Some people call it DoD. It's the spectrum that Dish owns and AT&T as well. And AT&T has been building it. Anyways, the spectrum, T-Mobile actually won some in auction. And they got enough of it that we would say they honestly could have built it out and it would have provided a really nice secondary capacity boost to their network. Anyways, they just got rid of it. And what they did with it is they actually got rid of it so that way they could deepen their bandwidth in the 2.5 gigahertz, the N41, right? Which makes sense for their business. But I just want to show you guys something. So I want you to read the article, obviously, so you know what's happening here. But in this particular article, here's what it says in February 3rd of 23. T-Mobile said it will prepare to deploy its C-band and 3.45 gigahertz spectrum this year, with rollout happening in 2024. The operator denied any delay in its plans. So here we are. We're on the precipice of November 2024. There is not an indication of anything happening in the 3 gigahertz bands. Nothing. No N77, no CBRS band 48 and 48, none of that stuff. T-Mobile hasn't done anything in this space. This has been spectrum that has been just sitting on the shelf and T-Mobile hasn't built it, right? Some people will randomly share like a test site of like T-Mobile building a C-band test site in the middle of somewhere in Texas or something, and that's cool, that's exciting, but it's not any type of build. So they just sold and got rid of 3.45. They still have C-band. And some of the commentary from Ulf, you guys know Ulf Tickets, he's the network chief over at T-Mobile. He said, this is exact terminology from him. I don't know the exact quote, it doesn't really matter. But he said that T-Mobile never had plans on a future of its network with the 3.45. Well, then what is this commentary? T-Mobile said it will prepare to deploy C-band and 3.45 this year. That was in 2023. Rollout happening in 24. We're at the end of 24. The DoD is gone and the C-band still hasn't been built. So what are we talking about here? The reason I made this video is because these providers, these mobile network builders, they lie. And they bold-faced lie to your face. Right? They lie through their teeth. And they all do it. Like, this isn't really just about T-Mobile, but I mean, in this particular instance, because it's relevant, and they just declared earnings, and they spoke about the network at the call. They talked about how they were going to approach C-band. Well, number one, they're clearly in no hurry. Number two, it's obviously not that important to them, right? Number three, they sold the 3.45, saying it was never a part of their future. Meanwhile, the previous year, it was a part of their future. So what's real? Those two things can't both coexist. It can't be a part of your future and then it's not a part of your future, right? So what was real, it was never a part of their future, I guess. Unless something changed. They're not really telling us. One comment from CEO Mike Sievert was in discussing C-band is they like to play that close to their hand, or close to their chest, their cards close to their chest, whatever the comment was, that metaphor. And it's kind of like the poker play. They basically don't want to tell anybody exactly how and when they're going to build C-band. So that's really where this comes back to, is how are they going to build C-band? We already know they're not going to do DoD, right? So 3.45 gigahertz wasn't a part of their short-term, mid-term, or long-term network plan. And with respect to, C-band, one of the comments they replied to about the network was they're not just defending their 5G lead, they want to extend it. I think the only way they can, quote unquote, extend their lead would be to increase CapEx and build out their C-band. And there are places where they do have C-band licenses where they bought it in those markets and they could use the capacity boost. So they might start doing it, right? And they're going to be selective. And I think they have it in like 220 million pops of locations across the U.S. And they could thrive with this. right? It could be what they need, and they're scaling 10 gig circuits, so they've already got the fiber that would be able to push the spectrum. And I think maybe possibly they're waiting for additional phones and handsets for people to upgrade to be able to take advantage of additional 5G channels, right? Some phones only do one 5G channel, the older ones. Some phones do two carrier aggregation, two channel aggregation. Those might be phones from a couple of years ago. And then the most recent ones we're seeing more of like the three carrier aggregation, three channels combined in 5G, which T-Mobile deploys nationally, right? You have N25, the mid-band, 1.9 gigahertz, N41, the 2.5 gigahertz, and they've got two channels there in most places. And then they have N71, the low band, right? N71 being 600 megahertz. So they if they were to add C-band to the fold, they're going to need people with phones to do it, right? And that's going to be a more modern handset. So it might be some of that in play. It could be part of their CapEx that's kind of restricting the scaling. But that, I think, is worth a conversation to have maybe on another video discussing the C-band piece. And then additionally, the 800 megahertz, the low band from Sprint that they couldn't sell, weren't able to convert that. We can postulate what might happen soon. But anyways, kind of a network update and something I wanted to let you guys know. They are not going to tell you the truth. They clearly are playing coy and bold-faced lies about C-band and DoD. What do you guys think? Comment down below. You're the voice of the people, the SMT Nation. Let your voice be heard.